Winning in a great economy is easy. Many people did it the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, heck, the last since 2008, since we've had the economic expansion, the longest ever. There's been a lot of people that have made a lot of money. Anybody can do that. Anybody can make money in a great economy. Winning in any economy is what creates true wealth. The next 2 years will reveal who will win and who won't. So you want to make sure you're part of the camp that's prepared for this, and you want to make sure you have the reputation in the marketplace to say, market crashed, I made money. Market was booming, I made money. Market was flat, I made money. I'm going to make money in any economy because I'm constantly looking at ways to improve myself by seeking strategies that are effective in any economy. Now, some real estate facts for you to be thinking about. Nearly a third of America's net worth is tied to real estate. A third. So if a person's worth $1 million, 330 of it is tied to real estate. So nearly a third of an American net worth is tied up into real estate. 79% of Americans consider owning a home one of the greatest goals to achieve. I think that's one of the problems we have in America is we have convinced people that home ownership is the American dream. I fully disagree with that. My family and I didn't come to America to own a home. We came to America because it offers freedoms called free enterprise to build a business, to work with somebody that starts a business and build as big of a life I want to build to be financially free. Financially free doesn't mean home ownership, but that misconception has made a lot of people to believe maybe that is what home ownership really means, the American dream. The average age of all home buyers today is 47 years old, while the average home seller is 57 years old, according to real estate statistics. And that's coming from Bloomberg. So the average homeowner is 47, and the average home seller today is 57 years old. So now, fundamental housing market KPIs, something for us to be thinking about. Interest rates, which is cost of borrowing money. Supply and demand, which is home built versus home sold. Macroeconomic growth, which is are people optimistic about the future? Then you got unemployment rate and trend. Are people able to buy? Then you get inflation rate and trend, which is cost of goods and purchasing power. And last but not least, geographic hot and cold spots, which we'll talk about as well. Silicon Valley versus Rust Belt. We'll talk about that as well. Now, let's start off with interest rates. Okay, the basics about interest rates. A lot of people are sitting there saying, Pat, you know, most people, math wasn't a subject that we're very excited about. But math, if you think about with interest rates, is very basic. So if you were to buy a $500,000 house a year ago and you got a 3% interest rate, your mortgage payment would be roughly $2,100. And at the end of the 30 years, you would end up paying off that house with $758,000, which only costs you the additional $250,000 in interest you would pay. That's at 3%. If interest rates go up to 6%, which right now it's roughly 5.7%, that same $500,000 loan is now $2,998, roughly $3,000. And if you continue paying that at 6%, it would take you $1,079,000 to pay off a $500,000 loan. Now, interest rates, if they get to 9%, some people say that's not going to happen. We're going to look at numbers to see if it's going to happen or not. If it gets to 9%, same $500,000 house is not going to cost you $2,100. It's not going to cost you $2,900. It's going to cost you $4,023, which is $1,448,000 to pay off a $500,000 loan. So what does this chart mean to you? Most people who buy a home, they don't go buy a home and say, I want to buy a house at 6%. Most people, when they sit down with their realtor and their realtor wants to pre-qual them to get them qualified for what kind of a house to go show them, they say, do you have your pre-qual paperwork from the bank? I don't. Why don't you first get qualified and then go from there? Then you go to the bank and the bank decides you can afford a $2,000 a month payment. Okay, and you say, I can afford $2,000 a month on a mortgage payment. No problem. People don't buy on loan amount. People don't buy on interest rate. People buy on payment they can afford. Now, if you were to go and say, I can only afford to buy $2,000 and make a mortgage payment of $2,000. If rates are 3%, you can afford to pay what? Buy a $500,000 home. But if the rates are 6% and you can only afford $2,000, you can only afford to buy a $351,000 home. And if rates are 9%, and if you go to the lender, the bank, to say, I can only afford a $2,000 mortgage payment, and they tell you the rates are 9%, it's no longer a $500,000 house. It's no longer a $351,000 house. Now you can only afford a $262,000 house. So watch this. If this is the case with interest rates and they're rising, maybe people could have afforded a $500,000 house a year ago. They can only afford a $260,000 if it goes to 9%. What does this do? Whatever the value of real estate is, if rates keep climbing, the value goes down. This is one of the indicators. Let me continue now. So basic math here that you run, I just showed it to you what it would look like on different math. You can do this on your own. There's many websites online where it's a mortgage calculator. Go do this for yourself and you find out exactly what this looks like. The difference between 3%, 6%, 9%. FYI, I'm about to show you what the highest rates were back in 1981, which was Jimmy Carter era, and the closest president, case study, to make. You know how they make case studies of who's the closest player to Kobe Bryant? They'll say who? Michael Jordan, okay? Who's the closest case study to LeBron James? Magic Johnson and Scottie Pippen. Who's the closest case study to Mike Trout? Who's the closest, whoever they say case study, right? The closest case study of President Jimmy Carter is Joe Biden. Those two are pretty much identical because of what happened with inflation. Except this time around, it's worse than what it was in 1981. You'll see here what interest rates hit in 1981. But this is one area that we need to be thinking about. So if we have a less disposable income, okay, if you and I have less disposable income, we spend less. If we spend less, there's a lower business profits. If there's lower business profits, then companies lay off, which you're going to see here in a minute, what companies are laying people off. If there's layoffs, there's unemployment. By the way, I'll take this a little bit more. When there is unemployment, which we haven't hit yet, then there is foreclosures and bankruptcies. When there's foreclosures and bankruptcies, then what do we have? Divorce. After divorce, we have alcohol, drugs, et cetera, then crime goes up. You see how the cycle goes. Believe me, no president wants to get to that point. This is why they try to prevent it from getting to that point. But this is a cyclical cycle. You make less money, you spend less. You spend less, companies make less. Companies make less, they let people go. People are fired or laid off. Unemployment goes up. That's a problem, okay? And we're just at the beginning today.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.